I was lying on the cold examination table, staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the tiny cracks to calm my nerves. This was supposed to be a happy moment. My second ultrasound. Another chance to see my baby's heartbeat. Another reminder that life was moving forward. Instead, the room felt heavy. The technician's smile faded the moment she moved the wand across my belly. Her eyes narrowed slightly. She tilted her head, then clicked the screen to zoom in. She didn't say a word. Is everything okay? I asked softly. She hesitated. I'm going to get the doctor. My heart skipped. Doctors weren't part of the normal routine. Not like this. Minutes later, Dr. Harris walked in. Mid-40s, calm voice, eyes that had seen too much pain to ever look surprised again. He studied the screen silently. Too silently. Then he turned toward me and said something I was completely unprepared for. How long have you been married? I blinked. 7 years. And the father of the baby is? Your husband? Yes. Of course, I said, my voice suddenly defensive. Dr. Harris pulled up a stool and sat close, lowering his voice. I need to ask you something very important, and I need you to answer honestly. My palms were sweating. Are you safe at home? That question hit harder than any diagnosis. What? Are you safe with your husband? I stared at him, confused and offended. Why would you ask me that? He glanced back at the ultrasound image, then at me. His face tightened. Because I've seen this before, he said quietly. And it usually ends badly if the mother doesn't act. Act how? He leaned closer and whispered the words that shattered my reality. You need to consider leaving your husband. Immediately. My breath left my lungs. What are you talking about? This is my marriage. My baby. Dr. Harris didn't flinch. Your ultrasound shows something that has nothing to do with medicine, and everything to do with the man you're married to. Before I could ask another question, he stood up. We'll talk more after the scan is complete, he said. But please, don't ignore this. As he walked out, I stared at the screen. A blurry image of my baby flickered back at me. And suddenly, I was terrified, not of losing my child, but of the man waiting for me in the parking lot. Rehook. I didn't know it yet, but that ultrasound had just uncovered a secret my husband had been hiding for years. On the drive home, I kept replaying Dr. Harris's words in my head. Leave your husband. It made no sense. Ethan wasn't abusive. He didn't yell. He didn't hit. He was charming, respected, a financial advisor downtown. Everyone loved him. Especially my mother. When I got into the car, Ethan smiled and kissed my forehead. So? Boy or girl? Too early to tell, I lied. His eyes lingered on me a little longer than usual. You okay? Just tired. At home, I tried to act normal, but my body wouldn't listen. My hands shook as I washed dishes. My appetite disappeared. That night, while Ethan showered, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at his phone on the nightstand. I had never checked his phone before. Not once in 7 years. But something inside me snapped. I picked it up. Face ID unlocked instantly. My heart pounded as I opened his messages. Work chats. Sports group. Family texts. Nothing unusual. Then I saw a hidden folder in his email app. Subject lines blurred together, numbers, initials, dates. One email caught my eye. Transfer confirmed, trust account number 7843. I opened it. The amount made my stomach drop. 7 figures. I scrolled. More transfers. Different names. Same account. This wasn't normal financial planning. This was something else. The bathroom door opened. I barely had time to put the phone down. Ethan stepped out, towel around his waist, smiling. "What are you doing?" "Nothing," I said too quickly. He tilted his head. "You're acting weird." "Pregnancy hormones," I forced a laugh. He nodded slowly, but his eyes hardened just a little. That night, he wrapped an arm around me as we slept, but I stayed awake. Listening. Thinking. Wondering who the man beside me really was. Rehook. The next morning, a call from the doctor confirmed my worst fear. Ethan wasn't just lying to me, he was dangerous. Dr. Harris called the next morning. "Did you tell your husband what I said?" he asked. "No." "Good," he replied immediately. "Do not. Under any circumstances." My throat tightened. "Why?" "Because the ultrasound didn't just show fetal development," he said carefully. "It showed signs of chronic stress trauma." I froze. "On the baby?" "Yes. And on you." He explained how prolonged psychological fear, often unnoticed by the victim, could impact pregnancy. "But that doesn't explain why you want me divorced," I said. There was a pause. "I ran your husband's name," he said quietly. Something felt off. My heart slammed. "You ran a background check?" "I shouldn't have," he admitted. "But I did." "And?" "He's not who you think he is." Dr. Harris told me Ethan had been connected, indirectly but repeatedly, to women who disappeared financially and emotionally. Divorces that ended with the wives bankrupt, isolated, labeled unstable. "And pregnant?" I whispered. "Yes," he said. 2 of them. I felt sick. They lost custody. One vanished completely. I couldn't breathe. "That's not possible," I said. "He's my husband." "Listen to me," Dr. Harris said firmly. "You need legal protection. Now." When the call ended, I sat on the kitchen floor, hugging my knees. Footsteps approached. Ethan stood in the doorway. "Who were you talking to?" he asked casually. "No one." He smiled. But this time, it didn't reach his eyes. Rehook. That night, I learned just how closely Ethan had been watching me. That evening, Ethan surprised me with dinner reservations. "Thought you could use a night out," he said. At the restaurant, he held my hand, smiled for the waiter, played the perfect husband. But his questions felt sharp. "Did the doctor say everything was normal?" "Yes." "Did he say anything unusual?" "No." He nodded, satisfied. Later that night, I went to my email. A message sat unread. From unknown sender. Subject: "You're not crazy." My blood ran cold. Inside was one sentence. "Check your medical records before he edits them." I opened my hospital portal. My ultrasound notes had been changed. The warning about stress markers, deleted. Someone had accessed my records. Only one person had the clearance. My husband. Rehook. By morning, I knew this wasn't just about divorce anymore. It was about survival. I packed a bag before dawn. Just essentials. Documents. Cash. I stared at Ethan sleeping, his face peaceful. For years, I'd loved this man. Now, I feared him. As I reached the door, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Running late for work. Don't go anywhere today." He was awake. Watching. I placed my hand on my stomach. "I choose you," I whispered to my baby. And I stepped outside. Rehook, end of part 5. I didn't know it yet, but leaving the house that morning would expose the darkest truth of all, one that even the doctor never saw coming. The shelter was supposed to be invisible. That's what Dr. Harris had promised when he connected me to a domestic safety advocate named Marlene. No sign outside. No public listing. Just a narrow brick building tucked between a laundromat and a closed-down diner on the outskirts of Charleston. Men like your husband thrive on control, Marlene had said over the phone. When they lose it, they escalate. That word, escalate, sat heavy in my chest as I pulled into the gravel lot just before sunrise. Inside, the shelter smelled like cheap coffee and disinfectant. The walls were painted a soft blue, meant to calm nerves that never really settled. A woman at the front desk gave me a clipboard without asking questions. She already knew my name. "You're safe here," she said kindly. I wanted to believe her. They gave me a small room. Twin bed. Thin blanket. One window that didn't open more than an inch. I sat down and pressed my palm to my stomach, feeling my baby shift slightly. "We made it," I whispered. But safety, I was learning, is a fragile illusion. By noon, my phone began to buzz. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Then another text came through. "Ethan? I'm worried. You left without telling me. That's not like you." My hand shook. Another message. "The doctor called. Said you missed an appointment." A lie. Dr. Harris would never. Minutes later. "You're scaring me." That one made me laugh, short, bitter, hollow. By afternoon, Marlene knocked gently on my door. "He's been calling," she said carefully. My heart dropped. "How did he find this place?" "He didn't," she replied. "But he's filing a missing person report. And he's good at sounding convincing. Convincing. That was Ethan's superpower. By evening, the shelter's director asked to speak with me. "We may need to relocate you," she said. "Temporarily." "Why?" I asked, panic rising. "Because your husband just contacted a lawyer. And the lawyer contacted us." My blood went cold. "They can't do that," I said. "This is confidential." She sighed. "Normally, yes. But your husband is claiming you're mentally unstable and a danger to yourself and the baby." I felt like the floor dropped out beneath me. "He's saying you fled due to prenatal psychosis," she continued. "And that you stopped taking prescribed medication." "That's not true," I whispered. "I know," she said gently. "But he has documentation." Documentation. Of course he did. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me flinch. Every footstep in the hallway felt like it was coming for me. At 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a voicemail. I shouldn't have listened. But I did. Ethan's voice filled the room, soft, calm, almost loving. "Baby," he said, using the name he only used when he wanted something. "I know you're confused right now. That doctor filled your head with lies. You're stressed. Pregnant. Vulnerable." He paused. "I forgive you." My stomach twisted. "Come home," he continued. "We'll forget all this. But if you don't, I can't protect you from what happens next." The line went dead. I sat there, shaking, until dawn. The next morning, a police officer arrived at the shelter. He was polite. Professional. Sympathetic. "Your husband's concerned," he said. "He says you're not yourself." "I am myself," I replied, my voice barely steady. He glanced at his clipboard. "He also says you've had emotional episodes before." "That's a lie." He hesitated. "Ma'am, are you refusing medical care?" I realized then how carefully Ethan had planned this. This wasn't about love. It was about ownership. By afternoon, I was escorted to a hospital for evaluation. Different hospital. Different doctor. As they wheeled me into the exam room, I saw Ethan standing at the end of the hallway. Suit pressed. Hair perfect. Worried husband face activated. He met my eyes and smiled. Not warmly. Victorious. And in that moment, I understood the truth the ultrasound had only hinted at. My husband didn't just want control over me. He wanted control over my child. And he was willing to destroy me to get it. Rehook, end of part 6. The evaluation was supposed to last 1 hour, but by nightfall, I was legally trapped, and the person who signed the papers was my own husband. The room smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. They had taken my phone. My bag. Even my shoes. All standard procedure, the nurse said gently, avoiding my eyes as she guided me into a small hospital room with a narrow bed and a camera in the corner of the ceiling. A camera. That's when it hit me. This wasn't an evaluation. This was confinement. I wrapped my arms around myself, my mind racing. Dr. Harris had warned me, legal protection now. But I hadn't moved fast enough. Ethan always did. An hour later, a psychiatrist entered. Late 50s. Neutral expression. Clipboard pressed to his chest like a shield. I'm Dr. Reynolds, he said. I'm here to assess your mental state. I don't need an assessment, I replied. I need a lawyer. He smiled politely. That depends. On what? I wanted to ask. But before I could, the door opened again. Ethan walked in. My heart slammed so hard I thought I might pass out. There she is, he said softly, concern dripping from every syllable. He rushed to my side, crouched beside the bed, and took my hands. Baby, look at you, he whispered. You scared me. Get away from me, I said. Doctor. Reynolds raised an eyebrow and scribbled something down. Ethan's grip tightened just slightly. See, he said to the doctor. This is what I was telling you about. She gets confused. Paranoid. I am not paranoid, I snapped. He altered my medical records. He's lying. Ethan sighed and stood up slowly, like a patient saint. I wish that were true, he said. But she's been under so much stress. The pregnancy triggered something. The doctor she saw, Harris, he filled her head with ideas. Dr. Reynolds nodded thoughtfully. Stress-induced delusions are not uncommon during pregnancy, he said. Delusions. The word echoed like a gunshot. I want my own doctor, I said. Call Dr. Harris. Ethan's face fell. Just for a moment. He's unavailable, he said quickly. Out of town. Another lie. Dr. Reynolds flipped a page. Your husband also mentioned you stopped taking prescribed anti-anxiety medication. I was never prescribed anything, I said, my voice shaking. Ethan pulled a folder from his briefcase. Yes, you were, he said gently. 2 years ago. After the miscarriage. My blood ran cold. He slid the folder across the desk. My name. My signature. Only, it wasn't my signature. I didn't sign that, I whispered. Dr. Reynolds studied it. It appears valid. Of course it did. Ethan worked with numbers. Documents. Trust accounts. Forgery would have been child's play. You don't understand, I said desperately. He's doing this on purpose. He wants custody. He wants control. Ethan knelt again, tears forming in his eyes. I just want my wife back, he said. Dr. Reynolds made his decision within minutes. For your safety and the baby's, he said, I'm recommending a 72-hour involuntary hold. The words knocked the air out of me. No, I whispered. Please. Ethan squeezed my hands, his voice barely audible. I'll take care of everything, he said. I promise. I was escorted to a locked wing. Heavy doors. Keycards. Cameras everywhere. That night, I lay awake listening to distant cries echo through the hallway. Women whispering. Someone screaming. Someone begging. I pressed my hand to my belly, tears soaking the pillow. I won't let him take you, I whispered. The next morning, a social worker arrived. Her tone was professional, rehearsed. Given your current condition, she said, your husband has been granted temporary medical and legal authority. Authority. Over me. Over my baby. I felt something inside me break. Later that afternoon, Ethan visited again. This time, he didn't pretend. No more running, he said quietly, standing just out of camera range. You made this harder than it needed to be. I hate you, I whispered. He smiled. You'll thank me, he said. Once the baby's born, you won't even remember this. My breath caught. What do you mean? He leaned closer. Postpartum memory gaps are very real, he said softly. Especially after medication. Medication. I suddenly understood the real plan. This wasn't about winning custody. It was about erasing me. As he turned to leave, he paused at the door. Oh, he added casually. Dr. Harris won't be calling again. My heart stopped. What did you do? I whispered. Ethan glanced back, his eyes dark. Nothing illegal, he said. Just, permanent. Rehook, end of part 7. By the time I realized what permanent meant, the nurse was approaching my bed with a syringe, and my husband was the one who authorized it. The syringe gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Clear liquid. No label facing me. The nurse was young, maybe mid-20s, with tired eyes and a practiced calm that told me she'd done this 1,000 times before. This will help you relax, she said gently. I don't consent, I replied, my voice thin but steady. I want to see what you're giving me. She hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. That hesitation saved my life. Your husband already signed, she said, trying to recover. You're under a medical hold. I know my rights, I said. And I know what forced medication can do during pregnancy. Her grip tightened slightly on the syringe. Please, I whispered. Just check the chart again. She sighed, clearly annoyed, but protocol mattered. She turned to the computer on the wall and clicked through my file. Her brow furrowed. That's strange, she murmured. My heart pounded. What is? The dosage, she said slowly. It's unusually high for a first administration. I swallowed. High enough to cause memory loss? She looked at me sharply. Who told you that? She asked. My husband, I said. Without realizing it. She stared at the screen longer this time. Then she turned back to me, not as a nurse, but as a woman. What's your name? She asked softly. I told her. And you're how far along? 16 weeks. She exhaled slowly and set the syringe down. I need to step out for a moment, she said. Fear surged through me. You're still going to give it to me, aren't you? She didn't answer. Just walked out. I sat there, shaking, my hands clenched around the blanket, counting my breaths so I wouldn't panic. The camera blinked red above me. Minutes passed. Then the door opened again. The nurse returned, but she wasn't alone. An older woman followed her in. Late 40s. Calm posture. Sharp eyes. I'm Linda, she said. Charge nurse. She pulled a chair closer to my bed. My colleague here flagged your medication order, she continued. I had a look. And? I asked, barely breathing. And I'm delaying administration, she said simply. Relief hit me so hard I nearly cried. Why? I asked. Linda folded her hands. Because the order was authorized externally. Not by the attending psychiatrist. My heart raced. By my husband. She didn't confirm it. She didn't need to. Listen carefully, she said quietly. Hospitals run on paperwork. But paperwork doesn't always tell the truth. She stood. You'll remain under observation tonight. No medication. As they left, the younger nurse squeezed my hand briefly. Hang in there, she whispered. That night, sleep didn't come easily, but hope did. The next morning, everything changed. A woman introduced herself as my court-appointed patient advocate. Her name was Rachel. I'm here to ensure your rights are respected, she said. I told her everything. The altered records. The shelter. The fake prescriptions. The money transfers. Dr. Harris. Her expression darkened. This is serious, she said. Can you help me? I asked. She nodded. But we need evidence. I don't have access to anything, I said. He took my phone. Rachel tapped her pen thoughtfully. Hospitals keep logs. Every record edit. Every access point. My pulse quickened. You mean? Yes, she said. If your husband accessed your medical file, there will be a digital footprint. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt power return to my body. That afternoon, Ethan arrived. He looked irritated. They told me you refused treatment, he said, forcing a smile. I asked questions, I replied calmly. He leaned closer. You're making yourself look worse. Am I? I asked. Something flickered in his eyes. Later, Rachel returned, with a printed report. She closed the door. This stays between us, she said. She slid the papers onto my bed. Access logs. Dates. Times. Ethan's name. Multiple entries. Including the night before I fled. He edited the ultrasound notes, Rachel said. And flagged you as non-compliant. My hands trembled as I read. This is illegal, I whispered. Yes, she said. And very bad for him. But it's not enough, I said. He's powerful. He'll spin this. Rachel met my eyes. There's one more thing, she said. Your original doctor, Harris, filed a report before he disappeared from the system. My heart skipped. Disappeared? He was removed from hospital access, she said. But his report was archived. She pulled out another page. At the bottom, a single sentence was highlighted. Patient's stress markers suggest external coercion by spouse. Immediate intervention recommended. Tears blurred my vision. He tried to help me, I whispered. Yes, Rachel said. And now we can help you. Just then, the door burst open. Ethan stood there, face tight with anger. What are you doing? He demanded. Rachel stood calmly. My job. He looked at me, eyes blazing. This isn't over, he said. I straightened my shoulders. For the first time, I replied, I believe you. Rehook, end of part 8. That evening, Rachel warned me in a whisper, Ethan had one final move left, and it involved forcing my baby to be born early. By early morning, the tension in the hospital had grown unbearable. Every beep from the monitors, every footstep outside my room, made me jump. I had been awake for hours, waiting, planning, clinging to Rachel's presence like a lifeline. Ethan had gone silent, but silence from him was worse than words. It always meant he was watching, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I tried to focus on my baby's movements, but even that brought a fresh wave of panic. My hands shook every time I felt the faint kicks. 16 weeks in, and I already feared what he was capable of if he thought he could control me, and the life inside me. Rachel leaned over my bed, whispering in a voice too calm for the storm I felt inside. You need to be ready, she said. I've contacted a judge. We can't move fast legally, but there's a loophole we can exploit. You need to cooperate medically, but strategically. I nodded, understanding every word. This wasn't about obedience. It was survival. Every breath I took, every heartbeat, wasn't just for me, it was for my baby. By noon, a team of doctors entered. Dr. Reynolds led them, his expression neutral, professional, but I noticed the subtle tension in his jaw. He handed me a chart. "We'll monitor the baby. You're stable, but you need to undergo standard prenatal testing." I glanced down at the forms. One set had been marked as urgent. My heart froze. "I don't consent to any procedures beyond standard care," I said firmly. Dr. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. "You signed the forms yesterday." "I did not." I shouted, panic rising. Before anyone could respond, Rachel stepped forward, her calm authority slicing through the tension. "The only forms you will honor are ones signed in my presence and with full patient consent. Otherwise, any action is considered coercion and may be legally actionable." Ethan appeared in the doorway. His usual composed mask was slipping. I saw anger flash across his eyes, a dangerous, calculating fire. "You're making this impossible," he said smoothly. "You're endangering the baby." I glared at him. "I am protecting the baby, from you." His hand twitched toward the doorframe. Threat or gesture, I couldn't tell. Rachel caught my gaze. "Don't react. Let him think he has control. Meanwhile, we have leverage." I clutched the blanket, nodding. For the first time, I felt a thread of hope. Later that afternoon, a new complication arose. My blood pressure spiked. Nurses hustled in. Monitors beeped frantically. Ethan's voice rang from the hall, calm and soothing, but every word was calculated. "Stay calm. Don't overreact. You're making this worse for the baby." I gritted my teeth. "This is your fault." Rachel signaled for the nurses to proceed under her supervision. They administered 4 fluids, carefully monitoring every vitals reading. Every second, I felt the baby move as if warning me. By evening, the chaos had quieted, but I knew Ethan's next move would be more dangerous. That's when Rachel handed me a small manila envelope. "Inside are copies of everything," she said. "Emails, access logs, and Dr. Harris's original report. This is your insurance. Your evidence. The moment you step into court, you hold the power." I opened it with trembling hands. My pulse raced as I realized the scope of the deceit Ethan had orchestrated. Forged documents, manipulated hospital records, false allegations. It was a mountain of lies built to control me and steal my baby before I could even speak. And now, the clock had started ticking. The next court hearing wasn't in days. It was hours away. Ethan had arranged a temporary hearing, citing medical emergencies and potential risk to the baby. He would argue that I was unstable, that my refusal to take medication put our child in danger, and that he, and only he, could protect the baby. Rachel's plan was risky but necessary. "You will enter the court calm, collected. You'll present the evidence quietly, factually. Don't let him provoke you. And remember, every document, every digital footprint, every doctor's note backs you up." I stared at the envelope, feeling the weight of everything I had endured. The lies. The manipulation. The fear. I thought of my baby. The life that depended entirely on me. And I knew there was no turning back. That night, I barely slept. Shadows from the corners of the room seemed to whisper threats. Ethan had not left, I could feel it. His car was parked just outside the hospital. Every movement in the hallway made my heart race. By morning, I was ready. Rachel and I entered the courtroom together. Ethan sat on the other side, pristine suit, rehearsed charm, his smile fixed. But I noticed the subtle cracks in his demeanor. He was confident, but not invincible. When the judge called the session to order, my hands trembled, but my voice did not. As Rachel passed me the envelope with all the evidence, I felt an unfamiliar surge of strength. I realized then, as I walked to the podium, that this wasn't just about me. This was about the baby. And I was no longer afraid. Rehook, end of part 9. The judge looked up as I handed over the evidence, and Ethan's calm, confident smile shattered in an instant. What happened next would change everything. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and cold leather. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest, but I forced myself to breathe slowly. I was prepared, more prepared than I'd ever been in my life. Every detail I had collected, emails, access logs, Dr. Harris's original report, was in that manila envelope sitting in front of me. Ethan sat across the room, his posture perfect, his hands folded like he had done this 1,000 times. But I saw the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes flicked nervously when the judge cleared the courtroom. The judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, scanned the files before looking up. "We are here to review the temporary medical and custodial authority over the mother and unborn child," she began. "Ms. Harper, please state your position." I stood slowly, gripping the edge of the podium, and for a moment, the courtroom blurred. But then I focused on my baby, on the life inside me that had no voice. "My name is Claire Harper," I said, my voice steady. "I am fully capable of making medical decisions for myself and my unborn child. Any actions taken by my husband without my consent are unlawful, dangerous, and designed to manipulate both me and my child." Ethan leaned forward, smiling, ready to charm the judge. "Your Honor, I am deeply concerned about my wife's mental state. She has refused prescribed medication and appears paranoid about standard medical procedures. I am only trying to protect our baby." I wanted to scream, but I stayed calm. This was my stage. Rachel handed me the envelope. I placed it on the judge's desk. "Your Honor, I submit evidence that my husband altered medical records, forged prescriptions, and manipulated hospital staff. I also submit the original report from Dr. Harris, which confirms coercion and stress markers indicating the baby was at risk due to external manipulation." The judge scanned the files. Her expression darkened. "This is extensive. Mr. Harper, you will have an opportunity to respond." Ethan opened his mouth, but I could see the papers shaking slightly in his hands. Confidence faltered. Rachel whispered, "Stay factual. No emotion. Let them see the truth." I nodded. Over the next hour, every lie Ethan had built began to crumble. Hospital logs proved he had accessed records without authorization. Dr. Harris's report confirmed the stress markers and coercion. Emails and text messages showed a calculated effort to manipulate me and the hospital staff. By the time the judge leaned back, the air in the courtroom had shifted. Ethan's smug smile was gone, replaced by something sharp and fearful. Based on the evidence presented, the judge said finally, temporary authority over medical decisions for the mother and unborn child will remain with the mother, Ms. Harper, and any attempts to interfere will be subject to legal penalties. I exhaled, the tension in my chest melting slightly. Ethan looked like someone had punched him in the gut. But then he whispered something to his lawyer that made Rachel's eyes widen. He wasn't done. Rehook, end of part 10. Ethan may have lost the courtroom, but he had one last card, a secret that could change everything before the baby even arrives. After court, Rachel and I returned to the hospital. My legs felt like jelly, but adrenaline kept me upright. Ethan wasn't in the room, which was a relief. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to breathe. But Rachel's expression was grim. "Claire, he has a contingency. You need to know." I froze. "What is it?" She handed me a tablet. "High-risk intervention, falsified medical necessity, anything to gain legal leverage after the baby is born." I felt bile rise in my throat. "You mean, he could force a delivery?" I whispered. "Yes," Rachel said. "He wants to create a scenario where he can claim immediate custody, citing medical risk or your supposed instability. He's dangerous, and he's desperate." My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe this. After everything, he was still trying to control me. Still trying to touch my child before it even took its first breath. I realized I had to act fast. No more hiding. No more waiting for him to make the next move. I asked Rachel, what do we do? First, she said, we protect the hospital records and the staff. They could be coerced. Second, we prepare a medical team that will only act under our direct oversight. Third, we make sure we have legal intervention on standby. It was a plan. But dangerous. High stakes. That evening, I lay in my hospital bed, clutching my belly. My baby kicked, almost as if sensing the danger. I whispered, I'm not letting him take you. Not now. Not ever. Hours later, a nurse quietly entered. She was the one who had hesitated with the syringe earlier. I'm with you, she said softly. Whatever happens, I'll make sure no one forces you into anything. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time, I felt that I wasn't completely alone. Rachel and I stayed up all night, coordinating doctors, nurses, and legal counsel. We were ready, but I knew Ethan wouldn't wait. At dawn, the calm of the morning felt like a thin veil over a storm. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Another buzz. Another text. You think you've won. Think again. The baby will be mine first. My heart raced. Rachel looked at me grimly. It's time. He's moving already. I felt a cold wave of fear, but also a fiery determination. I wasn't going to let him win. Rehook, end of part 11. By the time Ethan reached the hospital, Rachel and I had set a trap, one that he would never see coming, and it would change everything for the baby's future. Ethan arrived at the hospital mid-morning, calm, composed, but his eyes betrayed him. He was scanning, calculating, looking for any opportunity to assert control. Rachel intercepted him immediately, quietly briefing the staff. Every door, every hallway, every monitor was accounted for. Security personnel were strategically positioned. Legal counsel had filed emergency protective orders that could be activated instantly. Ethan approached my room, but the staff blocked him professionally yet firmly. I need to see my wife, he demanded, voice sharp, almost panicked. Not without legal approval, Rachel said. You've lost that right temporarily. He froze. Then tried a new tactic, soft, pleading voice. Claire, it's me. Let me in. I peeked from the window of the room. My heart pounded. He was dangerous. But this time I was ready. Rachel handed me the phone. Your call, she said. I dialed the hospital's main line, connecting directly to the supervisor overseeing security. Every nurse, every doctor, every monitor was already aligned. I picked up a small recorder. Ethan, I said, voice steady. Any attempt to interfere will be recorded. Every move you make is documented. You've already lost legal authority, and any violation will put you in serious trouble. He hesitated, a flicker of doubt passing over his face. The trap worked. Hours later, after monitoring every movement, the obstetrics team, Rachel, and legal counsel coordinated a standard prenatal procedure, completely safe, completely under my control. Every document, every nurse note, every procedure was recorded. Ethan left frustrated, but contained. The first victory was ours. I held my belly, relief mixing with exhaustion. You're safe for now, I whispered. I'm not letting anyone take you away. But I knew the battle wasn't over. Rehook, end of part 12. The baby was safe, for now, but Ethan had one final, shocking secret waiting, one that would change everything I thought I knew about him, our marriage, and my child's future. After the trap worked and Ethan was forced to leave, I thought I had a moment to breathe. But Rachel's expression told me otherwise. He has one more secret, she said. Something he's kept hidden since the beginning. My stomach twisted. What is it? She handed me a folder. Inside were financial documents, medical reports, and a small USB drive. Everything he's done is linked to this, she whispered. He's been controlling more than just you. He's been preparing a network, for your baby. I frowned. Network? Yes, she said. Trust funds, offshore accounts, contracts designed to transfer custody or even claim guardianship in emergencies. And DNA testing. My breath caught. DNA testing? Why would he need that? I asked. Rachel looked grave. Because he wants legal ownership. He's prepared to prove the baby is his, no matter what. And he's willing to fabricate evidence to make you look unfit. I stared at the papers, trying to comprehend. Every nightmare, every fear, every suspicion I'd had about Ethan now had a name. He wasn't just controlling. He was calculating a complete takeover of my life and my child's future. I felt rage and fear mix, burning through me. But for the first time, I also felt clarity. I understood the scope of the battle, and what I needed to do. Rachel outlined the plan. Every document, every digital footprint, every hospital record would be compiled. Emergency legal motions were ready. And we would request DNA testing only under controlled circumstances, with neutral authorities present. Hours later, I was reviewing the USB. One file caught my eye, Emergency Custody Plan, Harper Child. Opening it made my heart stop. Ethan had contingency plans for everything, from medical emergencies to my supposed incapacity. He had lawyers ready, hospitals pre-notified, even alternative family members ready to step in at a moment's notice. I felt a cold, furious determination. He underestimated me, I whispered. He forgot I'm my own person. And I'm fighting for my baby. Rehook, end of part 13. That night, Ethan made a move so audacious it would force me to risk everything just to protect my child. It was past midnight when the hospital alarms rang out. My heart pounded. Rachel grabbed my arm. They're trying to manipulate the records remotely, she whispered. Ethan's team is attempting to override the hospital system. I felt my stomach drop. Every procedure, every record, every safeguard could be erased in seconds. We rushed to the security office. A bank of monitors showed Ethan's legal representative attempting digital access. They can't enter this system without approval, Rachel said. But they're trying, fast. I felt the baby shift in my belly. I whispered, hang on, you're not leaving me. Rachel's phone rang. It was Dr. Harris, finally. Claire, he said urgently. I've traced their access attempts. If they succeed, they could fabricate records, make it appear as though you consented to procedures or missed appointments. You need to act now. I nodded, swallowing the fear that threatened to paralyze me. Using Dr. Harris's instructions, we manually locked the hospital servers, rerouted digital access, and secured every sensitive record. Every step was tense, every second could mean disaster. Rachel's phone rang. It was Dr. Harris, finally. Claire, he said urgently. I've traced their access attempts. If they succeed, they could fabricate records, make it appear as though you consented to procedures or missed appointments. You need to act now. I nodded, swallowing the fear that threatened to paralyze me. Using Dr. Harris's instructions, we manually locked the hospital servers, rerouted digital access, and secured every sensitive record. Every step was tense, every second could mean disaster. Hours later, exhausted, we thought the immediate threat had passed. But I knew Ethan's plan wasn't finished. That night, I couldn't sleep. Shadows and quiet corridors reminded me that danger lurked everywhere. And for the first time, I realized, my baby's survival wasn't just about law or medicine, it was about anticipating Ethan's next move before he even thought it. Rehook, end of part 14. By morning, Ethan escalated, and his final move would push me to the edge, forcing me into a choice no mother should ever face. Morning brought the harsh light of reality. Ethan had filed an emergency petition claiming my noncompliance endangered the baby. If approved, he could override medical decisions immediately. I held my belly, feeling every kick like a warning. Rachel guided me. You can fight this. but the judge will need absolute proof of coercion and intent. We presented the evidence, altered records, forged prescriptions, access logs, and Dr. Harris's archived report. Every motion, every fact, every email demonstrated Ethan's pattern of manipulation. But the final twist was mine. I needed to reveal something personal, something Ethan had hidden. I testified to the fear, the manipulation, the threats, and the psychological games. I revealed how the ultrasound had uncovered his behavior patterns, and how I had been forced to flee, live in a shelter, and fight for my baby's safety. The courtroom was silent. Even Ethan looked shocked, realizing the depth of his exposure. Finally, the judge leaned forward. Given the evidence, it's clear the petitioner has engaged in a pattern of coercive and controlling behavior. Temporary authority over medical and legal decisions remains with the mother, Ms. Harper, and any attempt to override this order will result in immediate legal consequences. I exhaled, relief flooding me, but Rachel's grip reminded me the battle wasn't over. Ethan's face was pale. He had underestimated me, and the truth had dismantled every plan he had carefully orchestrated. As I left the courtroom with Rachel, I felt my baby kick, a small, powerful reminder that life, and love, could survive even the darkest secrets. Rehook, end of part 15. The court battle was won, but the real challenge awaited at home, where Ethan's final deception would be revealed, shaking everything I thought I knew about my marriage, and my child's future. After the courtroom victory, I returned home cautiously. Ethan wasn't there, but his presence lingered in every corner. Every picture on the wall, every lock clicked in my chest with tension. Rachel stayed by my side, ensuring the house was secure. He could be watching, she warned. Hours later, Ethan appeared in the driveway, feigning calm. "Claire, can we talk?" I faced him. My heart raced, but this time I held my ground. "There's nothing to discuss." He smirked, realizing his usual manipulation no longer worked. Then, the first truth came out. His obsession with control extended to my unborn child, finances, and even my medical history, every move orchestrated to make me dependent and trapped. I felt rage, fear, and determination collide. Rachel whispered, "Stay calm. Let him overplay." I clutched my belly. For the first time, I felt power return. Ethan could not touch me or the baby, not now, not ever. Rehook. But Ethan had one last secret hidden in our house, a truth that could destroy everything if I didn't act fast. I couldn't shake the feeling that Ethan had left a trap in the house. While he pretended to leave, I scanned the rooms carefully. In the study, tucked behind a false panel in the bookshelf, I found a small locked box. My heart pounded as I opened it. Inside were documents, contracts, and photos revealing the full extent of his plan, fake medical reports, forged consent forms, and even a signed affidavit from a supposedly neutral party claiming I was unfit. Rachel gasped. "He's been planning this for months." I realized how close I had come to losing not just custody, but the trust of every hospital, every legal system, every friend. Ethan returned unexpectedly, his smile cold. "Looking for this?" he asked, holding another envelope I hadn't seen. I froze. Rachel whispered, "Don't react. Let him show his hand." He handed it over. Inside were more contracts, attempts to transfer custody at birth, showing he intended to manipulate even my own family against me. I felt fury boil over, but beneath it was a steely determination. He would not succeed. Rehook. Ethan thought he had one last card, but revealing it would expose him completely, and change everything about my marriage and my child's future. With the hidden evidence in hand, I confronted Ethan. "This ends now," I said, voice steady despite the fear. He laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "Do you really think you can stop me?" "I already have," I replied, showing him the documents from the hidden box. "Everything you planned is on record. Lawyers, hospitals, even the judge, all aware of your manipulation." His face twisted in disbelief. He had never expected me to uncover everything. "You can't take the baby," he hissed. I don't need to take anything, I said firmly. You've lost control. And you will never manipulate us again. Rachel called security to ensure Ethan left safely but immediately. He resisted, but the overwhelming evidence and legal protection forced him out. I sank to the floor, clutching my belly. Tears fell freely. Fear and relief collided. For the first time in weeks, I felt safe. My baby kicked, strong and alive, reminding me that love, courage, and truth always find a way to protect the innocent, even against the most dangerous deception. Rehook, end of part 18. The nightmare was over, but the journey to healing, and trusting again, was just beginning. The house was quiet for the first time in months. No whispers, no threats, no manipulation. Only the soft hum of the air conditioner and the steady beat of my heart. Rachel stayed with me for a few more days, helping me organize the documents, confirm legal protections, and ensure my safety. Every form I signed now, every step I took, felt deliberate, controlled, mine. I spent hours just holding my belly, whispering to the baby. We made it, I said, tears slipping down my cheeks. Nothing will harm us. Not him, not fear, not lies. Friends reached out, offering support and love. I realized how isolated I had felt, and how much strength there was in leaning on those who truly cared. Ethan was gone, at least for now. The courts had documented everything, any attempt to interfere would have immediate consequences. The legal system, for once, was on my side. That evening, I stepped outside, feeling the wind on my face, and finally breathed freely. The trauma hadn't disappeared, but I had survived. And in that survival, I found courage. Rehook. The baby was safe, the past behind us, but the journey to trust, love, and peace had only just begun. Weeks later, the first ultrasound after the ordeal confirmed a healthy, strong heartbeat. I smiled, clutching my belly. This life, this tiny human, was my anchor, my reason for every fight. I had returned to work part-time, surrounded by people who believed in me, who reminded me that fear was no longer the ruler of my life. Rachel visited often, her presence a steady reminder that allies could be found in the darkest times. Together, we planned the nursery, spoke to pediatricians, and documented everything meticulously. Ethan was a memory, a shadow that could no longer touch me or my child. The fear lingered, but each day it weakened, replaced by hope and determination. I whispered to my baby, "You are loved. You are safe. And you will grow in a world where truth and courage protect you." For the first time, I smiled without fear. The nightmare had ended. The future, uncertain but mine, stretched ahead. A promise of safety, love, and a life reclaimed. Final rehook. The darkness was gone. The baby kicked, life surged, and a mother's courage had turned terror into triumph. A new beginning had truly arrived. Sunlight streamed through the nursery window as I held my baby close. Tiny hands reached out, full of life, and I felt a surge of triumph. After months of fear, manipulation, and danger, we were finally safe. Ethan's control, his lies, and his schemes were behind us. Every forged record, every threat, every sleepless night had led to this moment, a life reclaimed. Rachel, Dr. Harris, and my own courage had been my anchors. The courtroom victories, hidden evidence, and carefully planned moves had ensured that no one, not even Ethan, could harm us. The battle had tested every ounce of my strength, but it had also shown me the power of truth, love, and resilience. I whispered to my child, "You are safe. You are loved. And nothing will ever take that away from you." The darkness we endured had taught me lessons I would carry forever. But the future was ours, bright, free, and full of hope. Survival had become triumph. Fear had been replaced by courage. And in the warmth of this new life, I knew one thing clearly: no one could ever steal our love, our peace, or our home again. We were alive. We were free. And we were finally home.